My name is Bellamy, and I'm 28 years old. I returned from the funeral to inform my parents and my sister that my husband had passed away, leaving behind 3 apartments and a seaside house. Even now, as I think back to that instant, the same tightness grips my chest as it did then, laden with sorrow, yet oddly filled with a glimmer of hope. Despite the devastating absence of the man I cherished, I still felt I had my family. I thought I was stepping into the one sanctuary where I would be embraced, soothed, and shielded. But as soon as I stepped inside the house, I caught the sound of my parents speaking in hushed, pressing tones, the sort of murmurs that immediately sink your stomach. I stopped dead in the hallway, fingers still touching the doorframe, my dark dress carrying a faint scent of lilies and incense, my pulse hammering while my mother uttered words that would break something inside me for good. We need to act fast before she catches on. The lawyer mentioned the assessment should suffice. Once we get her ruled incompetent, we can take charge of the estate. I recall holding my breath, unable to even blink, as my mind rejected what my ears were taking in. Then my father's voice came next, detached and businesslike, devoid of any affection I'd once linked to him. She's been delicate all along. Nobody will doubt it. Right after the funeral, she's overwhelmed, unsteady. This is the ideal moment. Their words drained the color from my face. My legs quaked so fiercely that I had to brace myself against the wall just to remain standing. In those few seconds, my entire world warped into something alien, something vicious, something I could never have pictured. My own parents were talking about me as if I were an issue to handle, a flaw to take advantage of, an obstacle blocking their access to my deceased husband's $4 million inheritance. My thoughts sped through decades of recollections, frantically hunting for clues I'd overlooked, instances that now felt tainted with concealed intent. The discreet inquiries about money, the abrupt curiosity regarding my relationship, the practiced condolences following my husband's passing, a nauseating realization took shape. This wasn't impulsive. It was deliberate. My sister's tone interrupted my spiraling reflections, uncertain but willing, wondering, but what if Bellamy resists? My mother answered with icy assurance, she won't. She believes in us. And if she does attempt something, the doctor's notes will carry the weight. Doctor's notes. Assessment. Incompetent. Every term rang out like a blow to my head, because I understood precisely what they meant. Years earlier, I'd gone to counseling briefly after a painful incident, something I'd confided in them openly during a moment of openness, never dreaming my candor would later turn into ammunition pointed straight at my future. There I stood, concealed, hearing the individuals who'd raised me methodically plotting to strip away my independence legally. My mourning transformed into something keener, something charged, a blend of shock, treachery, and an emerging, unknown determination. I felt detached, like a stranger eavesdropping on unfamiliar people, yet each sentence cut further into my perception of their real nature. As their discussion moved on to paperwork, schedules, and the lawyers steering the process, I grasped the scariest element wasn't their avarice, but their conviction, their total certainty that I'd never question them, never protect myself, never view them as adversaries. In that corridor, encircled by old family pictures and reminders of my youth, I realized I was no longer secure, that the place I'd sought refuge in had become a backdrop for deceit, and that my openness, my sorrow, my faith, my affection were being weighed against me. But what escaped their awareness, what they could never have foreseen, was that my husband had equipped me for exactly this scenario in ways I hadn't fully grasped back then. His careful emphasis on openness, his routine of recording details, his understated cautions that wealth uncovers realities people strive to conceal. As their discussion drifted into practical matters, an unusual serenity washed over me, not comfort, not pardon, but a sharp, unwavering focus that altered my path. I wasn't helpless, I wasn't gullible, and above all, I wasn't lacking evidence. My quiet didn't last, because that day in the corridor I refused to break down. I didn't burst in. I denied them the pleasure of witnessing my dismay. Instead, I slipped back outside the house as silently as I'd arrived, my heartbeat thundering, my thoughts racing with a sharpness I'd never known, the type forged not from assurance but from the drive to endure. Sorrow had already claimed my husband, I wouldn't allow disloyalty to claim everything else. In the car, my fingers trembled so much I struggled to open my phone, but instinct led me directly to the one individual my husband had always urged me to contact if things ever seemed off, his lawyer. My voice faltered as I explained, yet I selected my phrases with care, recounting what I'd overheard without exaggeration or tears, because this had ceased to be a personal family issue. It had become a calculated legal attack. A long, weighty silence followed on the other end, then he spoke words that shifted the whole conflict. "Bellamy, your husband foresaw attempts from outside. You're not facing this alone." In just hours, I sat opposite him, dazed but attentive, as he revealed a file I'd never encountered, a backup plan my husband had assembled discreetly, thoroughly, without causing me worry. It held documents, correspondence, verified duplicates, and crucially, an encrypted digital vault with video declarations, asset arrangements, and protective conditions. My husband, the person others saw as merely kind and accomplished, had possessed far greater insight than I'd ever appreciated. He'd logged recurring patterns, odd questions, gentle oversteps, details I'd brushed off as innocent interest in our money from my parents, but he hadn't ignored them. He'd observed, evaluated, readied himself. The lawyer outlined the estate's framework, the mechanism set to engage if my mental capacity was ever contested, and as the meaning dawned, my grief intertwined with intense, blazing appreciation, because even from beyond, my husband had ensured I wouldn't stand vulnerable. All the while, my parents pushed their scheme forward. Certain that I was still the credulous daughter they could easily bypass, they arranged assessments, reached out to experts, built a story of emotional fragility with feigned worry, depicting me as mentally adrift in the wake of the funeral, a bereaved wife supposedly out of touch. The heartlessness was staggering, their act of concern while plotting to strip my control. But now, I wasn't the unaware victim. I showed up for each session, responded to every inquiry, followed every step, all with intentional steadiness, aware that the real clash wouldn't unfold in consulting rooms or quiet offices, but in the place where evidence can't be dismissed with murmurs, the court. The hearing came with a nearly eerie calm. My parents positioned opposite, expressions crafted into ones of reluctant responsibility, my sister refusing to meet my eyes. For a brief second, I glimpsed the entire sorrow of it, the very people meant to guard me now betting on my passivity. Their argument rested on suggestion, cherry-picked past events, and the premise that mourning equals incapacity. But when our side presented, the mood altered in a manner I'll always remember. Facts speak in a tongue resistant to distortion. The lawyer introduced the digital vault, my husband's preserved statement, displayed in the room like a voice transcending years, composed, exact, irrefutable. He described his purposes, his worries, the protections he'd established, and moment by moment, the facade my parents had built started to crack. Records of finances uncovered discrepancies. Messages exposed intentions. Their subtle plot collapsed beneath the pressure of verified truth. I observed assurance fade from their expressions, giving way first to bewilderment, then astonishment, then near panic, because the core of their scheme, my presumed weakness, had vanished. The ruling that came did far more than safeguard wealth. It reaffirmed my independence, confirmed my soundness of mind, and tore apart a storyline meant to nullify me. Still, the win brought no joy, only a grave understanding of loyalty, of how appearances deceive, of how treachery frequently conceals itself in closeness. I left that courtroom not as someone defeated by a plot, but as a person forever changed by the importance of standing up for oneself. Grief had challenged me. Betrayal had trapped me. Evidence had set me free. And if this account reaches you today, it's not just a tale of wrongdoing, but a warning that staying quiet isn't the sole reply to disloyalty. That foresight can endure scheming. That truth, when safeguarded, turns into protection. If this narrative touched you, if it stirred any emotion, Please subscribe to the channel and join us for more accounts that show how strength emerges precisely when it's most required.
Craving shocking revenge, chilling horror, and jaw-dropping relationship drama? If you love revenge, horror, and jaw-dropping relationship stories straight from Reddit, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Reddit Tales Time, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. More twists, more drama, more tales, coming up next.